Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how I made this realistic moss cake. I can't get over it. So I started off with a 6-inch red velvet sponge, and here I'm just piping my buttercream down for my cream cheese filling. I prefer to use frozen cake layers as it's just so much easier to stack and crumb coat, trust me on that one. And for the cream cheese filling, I just used a 2-to-1 ratio of my mock Swiss meringue buttercream to cream cheese, added that to my stand mixer, and I re-whipped it, and it created this gorgeous, stable buttercream. Because this was such a tall cake, I added a thick dowel in the center, and then I did a ganache crumb coat. Did I mention that my customer was driving all the way from London for this cake? This cake needed to survive a 4-hour drive, so I did do the crumb coat and final coat in ganache. If you've been following me for a while, you know the feud I've had with ganache. It was such a love-hate relationship, oh my days. But I finally figured it out, and I have got a whole chapter dedicated to ganache in my ebook. However, during this cake, I did trial a new method with my ganache, and I absolutely love the finish it gave. Like, look how sharp that is. Oh, I almost cut myself. So I've updated my ganache chapter to include the extra step I've recently added. And if you've already ordered my ebook, don't worry, you'll receive a new download link in your email so everyone can access the new and improved ganache technique. Because I have never had my ganache be this smooth. Are you joking? Anyway, this cake was ordered by one of my followers for her partner. They were heading down to London for a Renaissance fair for his birthday, so she asked for a mossy medieval cake with some mushrooms, and I was so excited. For the moss, I followed this really simple tutorial I found here on TikTok by Liliana De Silva. I was really surprised with how realistic it actually turned out, and the taste isn't that bad. It kind of tastes like a dry honey bread. But it's mainly for decoration purposes. The cake is the star of the show, and I know my cakes taste amazing, so that's not a question. But I just applied ganache onto the board, and I kind of just puzzled the moss pieces together until everything was covered. The more I added, the more it started to look like a terrarium. Like, who would have thought eggs, flour, a bit of baking powder would turn out so realistic? Since we were going for the realism vibe, I decided to add some moss growing up the sides of the cake, because if you're in a forest, moss isn't only on the ground, it's everywhere. Once I was happy with my moss placement, I moved on to making the mushrooms. So I got this mold from Amazon, again, super realistic. When I was decorating the 6-tier cake for Disney, I was on live the whole time, and this amazing baker called Dilly Lane Cakes gave me so much help and advice with fondant. So she's the one who actually taught me about using Trex to help release fondant, and I have never looked back. That tip changed my life, and it really, really does work. So try it out. Now, so far, the whole cake looks very realistic. We can't just have these cartoony looking mushrooms on a realistic cake. So I did take the extra time to really bring the realism out. So I painted each and every little white dot on the mushrooms. And then here I'm just using some hot chocolate powder as a bronzer almost. I just love adding on the little details that take a cake from, wow, that's a nice cake, to that's a literal edible piece of art. You know, that is what I like to do. Instead of just sticking the mushrooms on the cake, I picked off the moss and really dug the mushrooms in there to make it look like they were growing out of the ground. Oh my gosh, sorry. Certain cakes, just get me so excited and renew my lease of life. Like, this cake made me feel alive. Okay, so here is where the medieval part comes in. Look at this sword. It's actually a letter opener, so perfect as a little gift from me to my customer. I placed it right in the center of the cake, and then I added some more moss around and on the sword. And here I'm just placing on some chocolate rocks. Guys, the attention to detail goes crazy. I finished off the cake with some glitter and this 25 cake topper in this gothic font just to tie everything together. And here's how the cake turned out. This has got to be my favorite man cake I've ever made in the history of life. Like, I can't believe I did that. The cake tells a story. I've literally been transported to an enchanted forest when I look at this cake, and I'm just starstruck. It's amazing. My customer absolutely loved their cake. But as always, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, cuties.